Hello everyone, welcome to my very first YouTube video channel for LaFitVegana. Thank you if you're watching this. Thank you for supporting me on this journey that I'm just about to begin. And before I get started with this video and what it's going to be about, I did want to talk a little bit about myself but not give too much details. So as I mentioned, my name is Daisy. I'm currently 22 years old. I just graduated from college. I'm currently also working full-time, so I'm trying to, manage that, but also start with my YouTube channel at the same time. And to get a little more into this video specifically, I wanted my first video to be kind of me just sitting down. And I know it can be boring to kind of just be here talking to the camera, but in reality, I'm talking to all of you. I did want my first video to be more of like a sit-down, chit-chat, me sharing why I chose to be vegan / plant-based and my journey. I get so many questions on my Instagram from both people that I know and people that I just met about what it means to be vegan and Latina at the same time. And I think that just comes to say that there's a lot of people out there that are very curious and want to start this journey. So I just want to make it easier for everyone and, share my experiences, and hopefully I spark someone else to be more curious and interested and do their research and, go through a similar journey that I went through. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be about, and I hope all of you, get through it with me because it is my first one. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I first want to share a little bit of my thoughts about what I thought about veganism or plant-based or being vegetarian before I actually made this decision to go vegan myself. Like many people, I think there's very similar myths and thoughts around this lifestyle or this journey, whatever anyone wants to call it. For me specifically, growing up, I didn't really consume a lot of meat, which is surprising because I'm Mexican, but I grew up, my family grew up very low income, so a lot of the times a lot of our staple foods in Mexican households are, rice, beans, frijoles, arroz, nopales, like whatever was at home. But meat was kind of pricey and it was kind of seen as a luxury, so it wasn't something that I consumed on a daily. I think where that started to shift was when I actually went to college, and I really started to see kind of like how it affected my mental health and my physical health as well. And I don't want to say it was specifically just, consuming meat and dairy, but let me tell you that as soon as I stopped consuming those products, I just felt like a whole new different person, both on the inside and the outside. Also, what I thought about, being vegan / plant-based is that it's like a white thing, quote unquote. And I say that because veganism is very mainstream white. So when you think of someone that's vegan, you think of a white person. Similarly to like what you think about yoga, you think about a white person. And for me, that's what it meant. Like, it was just something that wasn't going to be sustainable being a Latina. I wasn't going to be able to, go home and then my mom make me like these vegan dishes and so forth. Yeah, for that reason, I just thought it was too extreme. It was going to be too difficult, especially, being Mexican. Another thing that I thought about veganism / plant-based was that there was going to be limited food options. And just like everyone else, when you think about like someone that's vegan, you think about someone that just eats salads or just eats lettuce. And that's why there's a lot of jokes and kind of, this dialogue around that where you don't eat foods that you enjoy. And that's actually the total opposite. Like, I very much so eat all the foods I enjoy right now. So getting into like when I actually decided to go vegan, as I mentioned, didn't know any black person, didn't know any brown person that was vegan until my best friend from high school, Adriana, actually was vegan before me. When she told me that she was vegan, it was just kind of like an eye-opener for me. It kind of made me realize that it's something that I can do if she's doing, and not more so just because like she's a human being, more so because she's Latina. And as I mentioned, I feel like there's a lot more kind of pressure that we put on ourselves when thinking about making that transition into like being vegetarian or being vegan, just because there's a lot of stigma around it. And I know it sucks, but that's how it was for me as well. So yeah, her turning vegan or starting her journey through veganism. I asked her so many questions. I was very much curious about it. And yeah, I don't want to say it was right away when she turned vegan that I turned vegan. I think it still took like around 2 years after she made that announcement to me, or like, you know, told me. But within those 2 years, I did become a lot more curious, and I did a lot more research into, you know, what it meant to be vegan, or how was I able to like be a Latina and be vegan. And another person that is a very influential person in my life that's actually not even vegan, he's fully plant-based. His name is Kwame. He's one of the counselors that I used to work with back in college, and also someone that I admire very dearly. But again, these two people that, you know, not white, and we're doing the thing, I was just kind of like, okay, maybe this is a sign. This is something that I've always been curious about. I've always felt some type of way about consuming animal products because I just felt like it wasn't the right thing. After learning and asking questions and being more curious about it, I finally decided to give it a try. And talking a little bit about, you know, before making that decision to transition to veganism, I actually did a lot of research. And when I say a lot of research, I mean a lot of research. I watched a lot of documentaries. I read a lot of like scholarly research articles that specifically talked about the impacts of animal agriculture and animal consumption, and the negative effects it had for our health, for the environment, and for overall the whole entire planet. This is something that I know is dear to my heart, and I think the only thing holding me back was being worried about what other people were gonna say and think. And let me tell you, that was definitely the hardest part, because people are gonna talk a lot and they're gonna have their own opinions, but it was my truth, and it's something that I definitely wanted to continue being more curious about and actually, you know, dive into this journey. And thankfully, with the help of Adriana and like, you know, doing my research and looking up recipes, I was able to fully make that transition late 2018, but early 2019, literally starting January 1st, I decided like, no, like I'm gonna slowly but surely cut back on all meat, all dairy, kind of going into like the main 3 reasons why I decided to go vegan / plant-based. I know I slowly kind of like mentioned them as I was like discussing a little bit about my journey, but one is for sure for my health. I noticed how it was impacting me negatively during college, and I immediately felt the difference when I stopped consuming meat and when I stopped consuming dairy. And I didn't just feel it on the outside, I felt it on the inside. And I don't just mean that like physically, like in my stomach, like also kind of like mentally and spiritually. So I knew at that moment like this was my truth, like, and it's not just for my health. I know going into another reason, as I mentioned, like with the documentary Earthlings, it's for the animals. I think of myself to be a very compassionate and empathetic person. So I feel like, you know, I just love animals, and I'm someone that believes that if you love animals, you do not eat them, and if you eat them, you do not love animals. And that's just my personal opinion. And lastly, the last thing is also for the environment. And as I mentioned, I did a lot of research, more specifically like scholarly research articles on animal agriculture and the negative impacts that it had on the environment. And let me tell you, when I say that, I also mean that it impacts negatively more Black and brown communities, because it creates these kind of like wastelands where we're consuming through the air and the air that we breathe all these toxins that are released from animal agricultural industries. But again, I can talk on and on and on about all these like specifics and all this data, but I'll save that for like maybe a later video if any of you are interested. But yeah, another thing that I really wanted to talk about in this video is I didn't go vegan / plant-based overnight. It took a long time. To this day, I'm still learning. So just remember that not everyone has the same vegan / plant-based journey. As I mentioned, I didn't go vegan / plant-based overnight. It's been kind of like accumulation of multiple months, this whole 1.5 years, or actually it's been more than a 1.5 years, 2018. almost 2 years. One of the hardest things about making that transition to being vegan slash plant-based was definitely society and the people and people's criticism and their snarky comments. And let me just tell you, it was very difficult that I didn't even want to say I was vegan slash plant-based in the beginning, because I was so scared of how people were going to react to that. And I've learned along the way, so right now I'm a little more like, I own up to that label, even though I hate labels, but I own up to it and I'm proud of it. At the end of the day, it is my truth, it is my decision, it is my life, so no one should have a say in like how I live my life and what I choose to consume. The main takeaways that I want everyone to get from this video is that if it's something that you're curious about and that you want to do more research on, by all means do it. Ask me any questions, ask anyone that you know that's vegan slash plant-based any questions, and don't be afraid to like reach out for help and ask those questions. So be patient, and as I said, it's not a linear kind of like, I guess, path where you're suddenly, you know, gonna stop consuming meat and dairy. Like, no, it's gonna be a journey. For some people, like, it did work that way. Like, they were able to quickly and automatically like switch to a vegan slash plant-based diet, quote unquote, even though I don't like that term as well. I think another takeaway is to really know your why, because I think that's very important with making this decision. It's gonna be very hard if you don't know your why and you go into this lifestyle without knowing deep down that this is something that makes you feel good. And I know for me, it's definitely something that makes me feel good, regardless of what anyone says and regardless of what anyone's judgments are. So yeah, definitely know your why. And also, it's been a learning process for me, so understand that it is going to be a learning process for all of you as well, but it's definitely sustainable, it's definitely doable. So yeah, if it's something that you are truly wanting to know more about, as I mentioned, reach out to me. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'm here to help any of you through this journey, and I'm really excited to start this channel for that reason, because I feel similarly to me, like knowing about Adriana's transition to veganism kind of sparked an interest for me. So I'm hoping that by me making these videos and specifically having a platform for being a vegan Latina or just being a vegan in general will help spark some of your minds to make that transition as well. And as I mentioned before, be patient, do it for you, know your why, and do it for your damn self. I probably missed a lot of things that I wanted to talk about in this video, but I want to keep it short, also because it's me talking the entire time, and I promise you they will not be this boring all the time. I'm a very fun, very weird person, so I do want to make sure that I'm very raw and myself with all of you. But I do appreciate if you leave me any feedback in the comments, or you can also DM me. I respond to anyone that DMs me, so please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want to talk a little bit more about, you know, what it means to be vegan, or if you have any questions about, you know, wanting to get that journey started for yourself.